All right, welcome back to Weekend Prime. Now, on the regional scene, President Paul Kagame says Rwanda has been made a scapegoat of problems of Democratic Republic of Congo and actually has failed to solve for decades. DRC has failed to solve this problem for decades, reiterating his call for a political solution to address the issues that have created conditions for armed conflicts to prevail in the first place instead of blame games. The head of state made the observation on Thursday, actually at a press conference where he addressed a wide range of issues, including the ongoing conflict in the eastern part of DRC involving the M23 rebels and government forces, FARC DC, as well as hundreds of other armed groups operating in the country for more than 3 decades.
Tell anybody and convince anybody that the actual people who are fighting now, who started this fighting we are talking about, came from Rwanda. They did not come from Rwanda. These leaders of M23 and the majority of their fighters came from Uganda, where they had been as refugees who ran away from or as a result of solving the problem of 2012, 2013, when these people moved to Uganda and others came here. I remember for specific actually number, those who came here were between 500 and 600, whom we disarmed and gave back arms to the government of DRC at the time. And had been kept here for a long time until when things as they kept changing, the government of DRC used to send even their officials to come and speak to people here where we had held them in camps.
Now, let's talk money. The beginning of every year holds 2 possibilities, especially the first month, January. It can either be January for you, a lot of hunger, or January, which means you have plenty. This boils down mostly to our money habits. Let's take a look at the journey most of us take from the sherehes of Christmas to the tightness of January. For many of us, the December festivities do come accompanied with great enjoyment.
Nyama ya kuku, na pilau, na kabeja, na avocado, mimi nakula mzuri.
The heavy spending that involves travel and celebration leaves an air of...
I want to assure you people and assure the country, the economy is now on.
Wanakunywa, mimi nakunywa soda. Naenda kulala. Wako na madem, mimi siko na dem.
Maybe I think they want to stop me from going out as usual. But I want to assure you, just wait, you will see me in town.
But when January hits...
Nataka muniombe. I'm going through a lot of problems.
The biggest challenge boils down to cash.
Insufficient funds. You ain't got no money.
We don't have money.
They are irritated. They are very annoyed. They are disillusioned. They are thrown into imbroglio.
Do you need some money?
With reduced budget, we are forced to adjust our spending habits.
It's called cash flow management. You may not understand it. It's not an easy subject.
Happy birthday to you.
If we continue to give temporary solution to the poorest of the poor.
In fact, we get straight back into looking for money in all ways we can.
Tuma pesa bwana. Tuma pesa.
Send what you can. If you can send me $1 million, send it now. If you can send an e-wallet for 200, send. I appreciate. Please appreciate me as your friend. Today is the day and tomorrow. Send what you can.
Stay tuned. You will soon hear interesting news on this.
All right. From eating nicely, even your diet changes. From very solid proteins to now kind of proteins. What is going on? Right now, I'm joined by Belinda Kaome-Kiplimo, lead investment advisor at Azara Wealth. Belinda, I mean, it's almost every January, we have this hashtag of January. Like, people don't have money. You know, we are trying to take our kids back to school. We are trying to get back to work. And it seems we just spend a lot during December. Talk to me about our money mindset as a country when it comes to festivities and transitioning into a new year.
That's throwing me in the deep end, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't talk about the money habits for Kenyans. What I would say is it's just a thing about life. We all want to live well. And December tends to take us to that, you know, good feeling. There's all this, people have already started logging off work by maybe the 10th or the 5th. And so what else do? You've worked all the year round. So there's that feeling of, okay, I need to settle down. I need to come to Noah's place. I need to cross over to another country or wherever it is you want to move. And of course that takes costs.
Okay.
Let's not forget our African systems. I mean, you know, we know you as who you are. You walk into the village or into an estate, they'll expect you konaka kitu. So there's all that. There's that cycle of there's pressure to be able to show up the way people look at you, but also there's that feeling of I need to rest a little bit. So I wouldn't say it's an attitude or a behavior, but it's more of an inclination to just find yourselves spending and spending and spending because everybody else is doing that. It's being shouted, oh, please come and spend. There are all the malls are beautiful and they're just calling on to you to come and spend. So
yes, that's kind of interesting because now we've been living in a very interesting environment when you talk about the economy. Majority of Kenyans are saying, at least that we are being a little bit more frugal with our monies. But as you've rightly put, during our festivities, we go all out, we take care of family and whatnot. In terms of planning ourselves, especially for this transition from December to this January, is there a system that we can adopt? What are some of the elements that we can uptake as individuals to plan better for this transition so that it's not sort of coming from a very high to a very low financially as we start the year?
I love that you say that because that's actually one thing that I try to talk about a lot at this time. Because the one question I'm asking is, what are your aspirations for the year? It might not be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 New Year goals. Just what do you want to aspire for 2025? Let's lock that. But then again, there's December that's coming and there's that routine. What then structures do you create so that you can continue with the routine? You can still show up. You can still, do all the things that you want to do. And there's a system or something I will call a sinking fund. So a sinking fund will be in those English terms, something that you're looking forward to sink your funds into. Okay. So your sinking fund can be a name like holiday fund. And so what structures you create now, which is the best time to do it really, is you ask yourself how much, around averagely, if you don't know, around averagely, how much do I spend in December? And how do you get that? If you travel, what's the cost of your travel? If you shop, wherever you're going, for example, we belong to a family, for us. So we visit 2 families. How much do we shop for that, for each family? And if it is travel, maybe you go to a resort or whatever else you travel. It could be air, it could be land, it could be water. What are the costs for that? How much food? Do you remember how much you paid for the last meal? What was the last meal you had during the holidays? How much? It's a question.
The last meal I had during the holidays?
Yes. Paid in a restaurant or something.
Let's go with a humble 1,500.
1,500. So if you have 10 days of leave or you have taken 10 days out, if you average 1,500 for 2 meals, multiply that by 10. You've already gotten your sinking fund. You know the cost of travel, you know the cost of the food, you know the cost of accommodation. If you're not being given accommodation wherever you are. Multiply that if you have dependents, for example. So if it comes to, let me give a figure, the figures that are coming into my mind. So maybe averagely could be 10,000, could be 100,000, could be 1 million. We know people are able to do that. So can you save 100,000 today? No. But you have 12 months. You could split that 100,000 every month. For example, you could say, I'll do 10,000 shillings.
Okay.
And that's my sinking fund for holiday. So when it comes to holiday and you have your 100, maybe 110 by November, say, for example, you see, even if you spend the 110, and we've answered the first question, which was, what are your aspirations for 2025 as far as your finances are concerned, and you've planned for that, and you're doing something towards that.
Okay.
You can come and spend this sinking fund and it will be fine.
All right. So have a sinking fund.
Have a sinking fund.
But the intentionality is sit down and assess your spending. Because I feel it's almost a spending guilt that a lot of people experience.
It is.
Like sometimes you start reflecting how much you've spent during Christmas and you might go into depression. So you decide, I won't be assessing how much I'm spending this period. I'll just move on with life. In regards to the structure of assessing how exactly you spend, I know you've given us sort of an outline of a sinking fund. So analyze your expenditures and sort of extrapolate and say, this is estimately what I spend. It comes with discipline. How do you establish that discipline to be able to stick to plan?
You could take it from any corner. What's your strengths? It takes discipline to wake up and come to work every day, right? And also just that understanding of, this is the only time I'm really paying myself when I save. Because the concept of saving is what? You have 100% that you earn, whatever 100% is for you. So that 100%, anytime you go and spend, you're paying somebody else. Even if you buy a very nice shoe and say, I'm treating myself to a nice shoe, the balance sheet of that shop has added credit. Your balance sheet has gone on a debit, right? It's gone, it's reduced really.
Yes.
So that discipline of understanding, if I save towards a goal, that's the only time I'm paying myself. Yeah. Yes, you'll come and spend and now it will be an expenditure and all that, but you've given yourself a reward, and we all love rewards, right, as human beings. So just taking that psychological aspect of saying, okay, I am setting this aside for a certain thing that really gives me reward.
Okay.
Like holidays make us feel rewarded.
Okay.
That's one of the things. Sometimes even the discipline could come from saying, even if I think about all this, the feel good and self-help and all that, and read all the self-help books, I know I will break it. You could create something called a standing order with your bank. And now we've even seen Safaricom M-Pesa creating a standing order called M-Pesa Ratiba. And that allows you to schedule your savings towards that goal, say the sinking fund being your goal.
Okay.
So the money comes to your account and it immediately debits it to whatever savings account you've used. And the savings account, we might go to that. The savings account could be another bank account you hold that is separate from your current account. It could be even a money market fund. We've seen popularity of money market funds coming up. And you do not even have access to that. You try to keep away having access to that. If it's an app, avoid the app. If it's portals, avoid all that. So that you have that ability to build something for you to spend.
Yeah, definitely. In terms
so those
of,
two things
those
to
two
start.
things very, very important. In terms of the amount that people save, of course, we have different financial strengths.
Yes.
Unfortunately, a lot of people, especially if you're not making so much money, and again, this is relative, but in a way, in your mind, you're like, okay, if I make 100 Gs, then I'll be able to save more. But if I'm making 1,000 bob, from that, it might be a little bit, the cost of living has gone up and whatnot. We give ourselves all manner of excuses. In terms of that discipline, especially with the little, in fact, the good book tells us if you're faithful with the little, you shall be entrusted with the much. That discipline with the little, does it call for putting structures like expenditure tracking? Because I've tried this, it was a little bit hard for me, where I've taken an Uber, you write down, that was 500 bob. I bought some sugarcane that I like, that was 50 bobs. Expenditure tracking, are these some of the structures that you can bring to make sure that you're managing your finances better in 2025?
Yes. Tracking is good, but it's true, it's not easy. It's not easy even for the best of them. It's not easy. So it's good you can create a simple budget tracker where you can have it on your phone. It could be even your notes. The note app on your phone? Yes. It could be a message that you send yourself every end of day or every end of week. You try to remember your largest transactions, and then you look at them. Why am I encouraging this? When I sit down across clients and all that, we say, let's start with assessing. Have you opened your M-Pesa statements for the last 6 months? Especially when I'm told I'm not able to save. I tell them, please do the M-Pesa statement for the last 6 months. Do your bank statement for the last 6 months. Then tell me if you really are not a millionaire. And the shock on people's faces or the responses they get, they're like, oh, I move all this money. Okay, maybe I'm saying it to the wrong audience. Government is listening. But the importance is put something and then create little structures. It could be, I know I spend 1,000 every day. Could I make that 1,000 to 200 shillings? I just saved 200. Money markets allow you to invest 200 shillings. Even banks, you can do transfers of 200, 100 bob. So if I like spending 1,000, I could put 200 and 800. You're creating a structure right there for yourself. Because now your mind starts creating that habit that every time is like, oh, you remember we were doing 200 before we spend this 1,000. So even you start negotiating. Yeah, you look for places where 800 will fit and give you the same service. So structures are good, but do not be so stuck with the expense tracker in the App Store or Google Store. It could be trackers, simple things, simple tricks in your mind that you're creating to just build up some thought.
Definitely. Our time is up shortly, 2025.
Yes.
What do you think will shape personal finance, especially for, I know we are diverse, but especially for individuals? What do you think? Because we know COVID came, technology is a vibe right now. What is going to impact personal finances in this land we call Kenya?
Good. We've come from a high interest regime. We had very good rates for money markets, but then the loans were a bit expensive. What I'm looking at, or what I'm seeing, is we are going to see more strength in terms of people just investing in money markets. People really understand the money market funds right now, and even extending to other unit trusts and going back to areas like the stock market. We've seen quite some attraction there, even with the local investors. So that's what I see from this point.
Okay.
But of course, technology has really, really supported financial inclusion. And not even 2025, what I'm looking or what I'm expecting and anticipating is financial inclusion just tilting from only owning bank accounts to people now being seriously invested and asking very hard questions. You are really getting hard questions from investors, general investors right now as advisors.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a good place to be as Kenyans. Let's look at it. Yeah,
wow.
That way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Belinda, I really appreciate your input. Hopefully these things we take and we practice, because if you take in and you don't practice, it doesn't make any change. And hopefully to more conversations now in areas of investments as time goes by, how you can better invest in critical areas, what are the popping areas. These are discussions that we could be having in the subsequent shows as time goes by. But thank you very much for your time. Making time to appear on Weekend Prime.
Thank you.
All right. That is Belinda Komeki-Plimo, lead investment advisor at Azara Wealth. And she says that within your mind, that's where the power lies. Create systems, save money, pay yourself first, then you can spend in other things. Then plan, have a sinking fund, okay? To stay afloat, you have to have a sinking fund. That's funny, by the way. I love puns. But yes, create a sinking fund to make sure that you're budgeting for your holidays so that when you transition to January, you have planned for it and it's not as hard as it is right now. We take a short break. Still more coming up on Weekend Prime. Stay tuned. Take another break. Still ahead in business.